and we are back with our template. There's a few things that we're going to want to do with this before we start going crazy with Solver, which will happen in the next video. But recognizing that 10 variables and 10 constraints is probably overkill for pretty much any situation that you're going to use Solver for, I wanted to show you how you can cut down on your space and still have a working Solver feed-in thing. Now it's going to be nice in that we have too much, because I'll show it towards the end here that having not enough and building up is way more hassle than having too much and paring down. Because if you want to pare down, you have two options and they both work beautifully well. First of all, note the profit equation, how it uses all 10 of these all 10 of these cells, all 10 of these columns. Similarly, these constraint equations all use all 10 columns. Now to go from, say, 10 variables, 10 constraints to, how about 4 variables and 6 constraints? You have two options. But before you do either of them, I want you to go ahead and save what we have. So go ahead and save this in wherever you choose and just call it the Solver template. We're going to add a few things to this and then be fully done with it, but I want to go ahead and show you how to pare down. So if you want to go to 4 variables, 6 constraints, two options. One option is to highlight all the stuff that you don't want and just delete it. So highlight all those columns you don't want and delete them. Highlight all of those constraints you don't want and delete them. And because those references were deleted, you might be thinking, well, all our formulas are ruined. No, they're not. Because we deleted them, and we weren't using absolute references, and we were using arrays, Excel will take out, it will shorten all of our references. So you see here, it's now just these 4 columns. And now it's just these 4 columns. So you can delete all of the columns and rows you don't need and still have a functioning template. Let me undo that though. Another option, perhaps a safer option, deleting can be scary, is if you want to get rid of these, you can simply hide them. With hiding, they're not deleted, they're not gone forever, they're just not being displayed. And so it's less visual space taken. They're still there, and they still show up in the equations, right? They still show up in the equations, but that's okay. And the reason why that's okay is because in Excel, if you have an empty cell, the value in that cell numerically is 0, even though it's not displaying a 0, which means our profit equation, all those things we just hid that were empty, were a whole bunch of zeros. Right? We had 0 units being sold at $0. All the constraints, we had the variable here also being 0. And all these constraints we hid, those two were all things like 0 greater than or equal to 0, which is always true. 0 less than or equal to 0, which is always true. Or 0 equals 0, which is still always true. So all the things we've hidden will in no way impact the results from Solver. It will in no way impact our linear programming. So we can hide them and everything still be okay. The only thing we might be upset about is, oh, Mr. Terrell, the border for product services got messed up. Okay. Well, sorry. It is what it is. We can live with that, though. So let's undo that as well. Let's just go ahead and have the full template, because I'm going to want us to do just a little bit more here, and we will be set and ready to roll with Solver. First of all, this total profit line, right, this is going to be profit per unit. I'm sorry, profit per product. Profit per product. And the way you can compute that would be the profit you get per unit times the number of units you're selling. And you can run that all the way through. But we ultimately don't need this row at all, right? The profit equation only used profit per unit and quantity. It did this row for us inside the sum product equation. So I don't need this row. It's just a waste of space. So I'm going to delete it. I'm going to delete the whole row. And, I just deleted my profit equation, which is what I'm trying to maximize. So let me undo that. And you can undo in a few different ways. You can hit Control-Z or Command-Z to do an undo. Alternatively, at the top, you have an undo arrow, which is just pointing backwards, and that just reverts your previously done action. And you can keep clicking that over and over again as far as Excel bothers to remember. And you can also redo something that you've previously undone with Control-Y or Command-Y or just clicking the forward arrow. There we go. Anyway, I cannot delete this row because there's something on that row that I want. So we have a few options. First of all, we can delete the row anyway and just type the profit equation somewhere else. Or we could move these two cells off of this row to somewhere else. And there's a couple of different ways you can do that. One way is to highlight the cells you want to move. And we have the white cursor here, which is just letting us inspect. We have the black cross in the bottom right corner, which lets us fill. And lastly, if you go to any of the other spots on the border, you get a cursor with arrows. And this, if you click and hold that, allows you to move any cell to any new destination. So I'm going to move these cells 2 rows up. And it takes the formatting, it takes the formula. The formula is unchanged, the references are unchanged. It takes everything. So it's as if what was down there, typed in everything, is now just up here. And having done that, we can safely delete this row. We do not need it. It is a waste of space. One other thing I might do is I might toss in a fixed costs line. And this is just to appease the accountant inside me. Because if you remember, profit is revenue minus expenses, and expenses are all your variable costs and all of your fixed costs. Well, cost per unit is only the variable costs. And so this profit equation is only the sum of all the marginal profits. It is the sum of all of the revenues minus only the variable expenses. And so if you want a true, final, perfect, and beautiful actual profit amount, you can also take the time to subtract your fixed costs out of your profit. And so maybe you're going to want to maximize not your profit here, but maybe your actual profit here. Something to think about. And you'll notice here that I kind of need to widen this cell so that actual profit will fit in there nicely. So I'm going to double click O. And then also to make this readable in a nice way, I'm going to click the right format. And so this altogether is going to be what we're going to try and maximize. Now we're just about ready to roll. Because we have a maximize objective function, there's also going to be a minimize objective function. So we need to build a new template. And it's not going to take us that long, as long as we work smart about it. Reason for that is we have all this stuff done already, all this spacing. So let's just copy paste into a new sheet. Or even simpler, let's go to maximize profit, highlight that, and right click it or command click it, and go to where it says move or copy. Hang on, let me drag this up so it'll show it to you. Right click and go to move or copy. And you'll have this little window pop up. You can move it, and you can also click here to create a copy. And so we have now 2 different sheets that are identical, though they won't stay identical for long. Because let's do 2 things. First of all, I want to click and drag this second one over, you see the little black triangle that pops up? That's telling you where in the ordering a sheet can be moved. Anyway, I want to make a new sheet for minimizing costs. Now with this, I don't need these two rows. I only have cost per unit. So I can delete those. These got ruined, which is not the end of the world, but actually let me do this then. I'm going to delete these. I don't want to do any shifting. You know what, never mind. I am going to just move this there and replace the data. And then I'm going to delete these two rows. What is it? Oh, it's mad about the profit. That's fine. Redo that. I'm going to... And here's a fun way to destroy cells without having to delete them. You can just copy empty cells and paste them onto them, and now you've just undone something. And so this reference is mad because I deleted the whole array, so I'm going to do some product again of all the quantities plus each of the costs. And this is no longer a profit model, it is a cost model. And I think that's just about all that need to be changed. So we just made a whole new template out of an existing template. It took us seconds. Pretty nice. So that's got us ready to go. We have product names, product costs, product quantities, constraints, 10 of each, which is more than enough in pretty much every situation. We have it for maximizing, we have it for minimizing. We are ready to roll. So let's go for it. So in the next video, I will show you how to set up the Solver add-in, and we will start to run with it. So look forward to that. See you then.